So I think, and Howie basically tipped his hat, I think, when he said, we're going to look at everything. And when Howie says that, that means they're looking to see if they can improve that position as well at a bargain basement price.
Yeah, he said that with us last week here on Sports Take. So let's continue our exercise that we're doing a little bit earlier here with the position battles, so to speak, that we were talking about. Let's go defensive line. I think this one's interesting. You figure at least you got Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave in the middle at your tackle spots. They drafted Jordan Davis. How's that going to work? You have Brandon Graham coming back from Achilles on the left side. You have Derek Barnett, who they brought back to a lot of people's chagrin. You have Josh Sweat, who they extended last year. You have figuring out how you're going to use Hassan Reddick. How do you guys see this, Barrett? You could jump in and start with this. What's the starting alignment, and who's getting the bulk of the snaps there along the defensive line?
Well, I mean, they're not going to change anything really, early, because they have to learn this new defensive concept. And as they bring guys along, like Javon Hargraves, if they do go to a 30 front, a 3-4 defense, he's played that. He played in Pittsburgh, so he understands how to flip-flop back and forth and what it entails. You have to be able to one gap and two gap, meaning one gap was what he's been doing for the past year and a half, 2 years. And that's basically you just got one gap, get up the field and create havoc. Mm-hmm. Two gapping is a lot different. Two gapping, you got to post your man up, and you're responsible for keeping that man in both gaps, meaning, in the middle is on an A and a B gap. You got to post him and sit him right there. He played the nose right there in the middle of the defense, of the Steeler defense. So he's better after playing that. But we also, Fletcher Cox, get mad because he didn't like that type of defense. He didn't want that gap control defense. He feels as though he's more suited to get up the field and create havoc. And he is. It's been productive, as a one-gap player. But we see that, Gannon wants to run a gap sound defense, and the only way you can do that is if you hold your gap. You can't get up the field because when you do that, it creates voids in the defense. It creates holes in the defense. So do they have the personnel? They're starting to get the personnel to be a multi-front type of defense. Hargraves can do it. The big fella Jordan Davis will be a one-gap guy. He can do it. It's the guys, that like Brandon Graham, who's going to be used to being out on the edge. You're asking him now to be a head up over the tackle. He's an undersized defensive end, but he's played inside and played the 3 technique before. A one gap player getting up the field. Can he go out there and muscle a tackle, head up, and stay in the gap and be gap sound? We'll have to see that. On the other side also, I mean, they have guys that could do it. Josh Sweat can play over the defensive end. He's a bigger guy. He's a longer guy. He probably can. He fits, that perfectly. He can play like an Aaron Smith from Pittsburgh. He can do that. But will they be able to do it this year as consistently as a team that, flip-flops back and forth? That'll be, that'll be something we have to look at. Milton Williams, he's a young guy. He can learn that. But I see the transition. I see him going from just a 4-2 team to now a 30 front or 3-3 team, because they have the athletes now to do it.
Interesting. What do you think, Gunnar?
I agree with a lot of what Barrett said. I think for 2022, Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave are your primary guys simply because of the money. They have $29 million tied up between those two players alone. They're going to get this money's worth. They're going to get their money's worth out of both of those guys. And they're very similar in what they do, which is control the gaps and allow people behind them to step up and make the plays. Milton Williams and Jordan Davis are the future. Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave are the present. And you couldn't have two better guys for the younger guys to learn under. Now, they're going to get their reps. When I say get their reps, Milton and Jordan may play 38% of the snaps. But that other 67% of the snaps is going to go to the frontline guys to get their money. Now, I think we all agree that this is probably, unless something astronomical happens, this will be Fletcher Cox's last year in an Eagles uniform, just based on numbers alone and the evaluation. Can we move on without Fletcher Cox and survive and continue to excel with Milton Williams and Jordan Davis taking over a lot of the responsibilities of Fletcher. That'll be the final determining factor. And you know, they're going to rotate them to keep those guys in fresh. But when the money's on the line and it comes down to crunch time, it's Fletcher and Javon's job to get the job done.
Interesting. All right, let's stay on the defensive side, guys. Let's look at corner. It's a position that there's a lot of concern for, that's for sure. We know one spot that's locked in, and that's Darius Slay at the left corner. The right corner is open for debate. Some people would like to see Avonte Maddox move back outside. I don't happen to share that belief, but some people would like to see that. There's also the slot position if you don't have Maddox there. But the right corner right now, guys, it could be anything from Zach McPherson, Josiah Scott, Mario Goodrich, who was the undrafted free agent, which they gave pretty good amount of money to. How do we see that shake out? Derek, I'll give you first crack at the corner position.
The cornerback position opposite Darius Slay is to be determined. I don't think we have a starter in camp yet, to be honest. I know Barrett talks about how they like the young guys out there. I don't think that young guy is going to be the guy who complements a Darius Slay. I think it's going to be a Steve Nelson type veteran. They're going to pick off a waiver wire in late August, or they're going to bring somebody in who's already out there at a much lower price. That's not a knock against a young guy out there opposite Darius Slay in any way, shape, or form. I don't want to see Avonte Maddox move out there. I think he's much better suited for the slot. As good as Avonte is, technically sound as the end, it's a mismatch 95% of the time when you put him out there. You're going to have more pass interference penalties than you need. You know, we already have Josh Sweat picking up a number of those. We don't need anybody else. You know, and it comes down to matchups. You know, Avonte Maddox is 5'9". Most of the big name wideouts they're going to play this year 6'2", 6'4", 6'5". It's a mismatch. As good of an athlete as Avonte is, you don't want to put him in that situation and expose him like that. Most of your slot receivers are smaller, quicker type receivers. That's his forte. You need to bring in a veteran. I'm not sold. I'm not sold yet on, you know, Zach McPherson, Josiah Scott, and some of the guys they have in camp right now. That's not to say they can't learn the position. I think they need to be groomed a little bit more. So I think, you know, and Howie basically tipped his hat, I think, when he said, we're going to look at everything. And when Howie says that, that means they're looking to see if they can improve that position as well at a bargain basement price.
Yeah, he said that with us last week here on Sports Take. So, Barrett, I know you're more bullish on Zach McPherson than maybe Gunner is. So how do you see it shaking out?
I mean, that's what I say. I see it mainly because they just don't have the cap room to go out and get one of these big name cornerbacks, you know, and I don't know if these guys these days will do it. You know, I mean, they lucked up with getting Nelson last year, a week before camp, and get him under the fold. I mean, can they get lightning in the bottle twice in a row? I don't know, man. I doubt seriously if they can. But I know they have a lot of guys in camp that they really, really like, or they keep around. You know, I mean, like Craig James. Craig James has been around forever. You know, since 2019. They keep him around because he plays a lot for them, especially in the slot. Josiah Scott, you know, they got him from Jacksonville last year. They thought he was going to come in and play the nickel position. You know, we know that. They drafted Zach McPherson to play. And the reason why I'm bullish on him, he was a fourth rounder, number one. But number two, watching, you know, I'll say it again, the Dallas game where he started, you know, basically to go out there and cover their best receiver in CeeDee Lamb. And I think he did a sustainable job, you know, a sustainable job, meaning he sustained the battle, didn't get beat. You know, a lot of the times he fought with him all day, played with him 3 quarters, you know, and I don't think CeeDee Lamb did enough to say, all right, you know, he outplayed Zach McPherson. So I just look at dollars and cents, and although dollars and cents has bit me in the ass the past 2 years because you got the quarterback situation where they you know let
they just ate the Wentz money. Yeah,
I mean, just ate it, bro. And that's like I couldn't believe they did that. You know, so I mean, they've done this before, but I just can't see them being able to go out and get somebody at that cornerback position that's worth any salt to play. I mean, they went out and got Kerry Vincent Jr. in a trade, didn't they? I mean, he's going to be on the squad. There's a lot of corners on this squad, man. They're going to give an opportunity to play. And in camp, I mean, if they just stand up a little bit, I don't think Howie would go out and get somebody if these guys showed a little bit.
Who works the salary cap better in the NFL than Howie Roseman?
Yes, you're right.
See what I'm saying?
No one.
You see what I'm saying? Now you talked. He was under that dark cloud of the Wentz, the cap hit. They still went out and got a Steve Nelson. So who better to find a few dollars here or there? When they came out of this season, we thought they were going to be severely hampered by the cap. Oh no, they somehow find a way to get a Hassan Reddick to come in here. So if anybody can find a way to get a player under the cap, they'll move somebody else's money around. I call it funny money. They'll move somebody else's money around if they deem that they're not comfortable with what they have opposite Darius Slay. I don't disagree with you, Barrett, but in all the years I've watched Howie work, Howie gets that itch. Howie doesn't like to sit still. And even if they say, McPherson's coming along nice, but this guy just hit the waiver wire, we can get him a lot cheaper than if we had to try to get him in free agency. Why wouldn't we want to add him to the arsenal now?
I understand that.
I just think Howie is going to twitch and go after somebody.
I get that, D-Gun, but it's not Howie. I know Howie can do that, but nobody's going to take the peanuts that he's been giving these guys like he gave them before. I mean, they gave Nelson peanuts. He was wooed in here, by Big Play Slay. He talked him into it. I don't know if Big Play Slay can go out there and talk some other guys. He's trying his best, but the money is just too good, man. I mean, they're giving away money right now, and I don't think the Eagles will pony up to the amount of money that this market is asking.
When you are cut in September, you are desperate for a job. You just want to play and stay relevant in the game, and your agent has to talk you off a ledge. I'm worth more than this. That may be true, but nobody's offering you more than what the Eagles are offering you right now. What are you going to do? Do you want to stay in the game, or do you want to miss a year, be on the outside looking in, and all of a sudden you become a forgotten entity? What do you want to do?
Yeah, and look, here's my daily Andre Dillard reminder that if somebody loses a tackle, maybe you could trade Dillard and get
true.
That's a definite possibility, because Dillard is gonna. I keep telling people are like, oh, he's not worth the first, second. Dillard is worth a first, second, or third rounder. You know what I'm saying? I mean, It depends on how big the need was. You know what I mean? Sam Bradford, they got a first rounder for him. When we're talking about starting offensive line, especially a starting left tackle, Dillard has shown that he is a starting left tackle. Regardless of what anybody else wants to say or what they think about Dillard, from the eyes of GMs and the rest of the league, he is a starting left tackle. Trust me. Okay. So they're gonna want top dollar for him and his services.
Let's hop to safety, because at least at the corner spot, you have Slay, you have Maddox playing in the slot. Although I don't love the other corner position, I feel good about that. I got to tell you, man, I don't like a lot about the safety spot here. And the starters, at least right now, Anthony Harris and either Kayvon Wallace or Marcus Epps is what you're looking at right now. I don't feel like this is either one are great options, to be honest with you. Barrett, where are you at with this?
You're right, man. I mean, there's guys right now that, I don't know if they could fill that spot and play better than who they had there before.
Yeah.
I don't see that. Kayvon Wallace, they're going to give him ample opportunity. I mean, he was a fourth rounder also. He played a lot last year, but he just can't make the field. He can't stay on the field. Can't make the club in the tub. He's been hurt a lot. They love Marcus Epps. And Marcus Epps is a Minnesota guy, one of Gannon's guys also. So he's gonna play, and I think that right now he would probably be slotted as the starting safety. And I put my money on him being the starting safety. And he's gonna be a contributor, regardless of what direction they go with free agency. If they go out and get somebody, Marcus Epps is going to play because they like him that much. But who's going to be, that third safety? That's why, you guys like, remember when we talked to Brian Dawkins, how he said early in his career, he was more so a safety / cornerback.
Yeah. With Emmett Thomas, he played him a lot at the nickel corner. Yeah.
So I think you see Avonte Maddox being the same guy, not the Hall of Fame. I'm not saying that, everybody don't jump, but I'm talking about in the same capacity as a safety slash guy that can go out there and cover in the slot. That's exactly what Mattis could do. He could be that safety slash corner that's going to come out and play in nickel situations. And if he's off the ball, he can play in the box, and he'll come up and stick his head in there. Even though he's slight inside, he still will stick his head in there. He's used to being inside the box like that because he played inside in the nickel position. So it'd be a smooth transition for him. They love Josiah Scott, so he could play the nickel corner. There's a lot of possibilities at that third safety position, that big nickel position that they can go with and they can run with. But it's all, it's all based on where Kayvon Wallace is in his development, on whether they go out and get somebody or not.
A lot of Jesse Bates love in the comment section. Cincinnati Bengals. He would be an upgrade. There's no question about that.
Absolutely.
I don't know if they can pull it off.
If the Eagles stand pat at safety, that front seven better be legit in terms of getting home, because there's quarterbacks that are going to expose them on the back end of that defense. Now, I'm looking at their schedule, and unlike recent years past, they don't play a lot of QBs this year that strike fear into you. Aaron Rodgers will pick them apart if they stay that way. Matt Ryan with the Colts will pick them apart. But if you look at the rest of these quarterbacks, Detroit, now I will say this: you don't know which Kirk Cousins you're going to get week to week. Kirk Cousins plays like a Hall of Famer one week and plays like he should be in Pop Warner.
Well, Prescott's had his way with them too a lot.
Prescott. Okay, so that's 4 out of 17.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, but look at Detroit. Why are you afraid of Carson Wentz? No. Trevor Lawrence, I think, is going to be a really good quarterback under Doug Peterson, but he's still developing. Kyler Murray, I'm more afraid of Kyler Murray running the ball than I am him throwing the ball.
Yeah.
Even with DeAndre Hopkins, if he's healthy. Pittsburgh quarterback situation is in flux. Houston is a mess. You got Tennessee. Ryan Tannehill. Okay. Yeah. Then you got the Giants twice. The Bears. Hey, I can quarterback the Bears better than Justin Fields is going to be decent, but now he's in his second. He's going to be in the second coordinator in 2 years.
Yeah.
So he's still developing. New Orleans. I'm not afraid of Jameis Winston. Whoever Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton can. Andy Dalton to me is kind of like a Kirk Cousins. You never know. One game he can throw for 500 yards. Next game he'll throw for -20. You don't know which one's going to show up. And then you got the Giants again. So there's not a lot of quarterbacks on this schedule that really strike fear. You know what I'm saying? You start with Aaron Rodgers, Matt Ryan, okay, Dak Prescott, but that's about it. When you think about it, any of these other quarterbacks. So what?
It's part of the thing that makes their schedule so favorable to begin with.
Exactly.
The fact that that certainly plays into this thing. All right, let's jump now to receiver, because I think it's pretty obvious that it's Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. Where it gets interesting is after that. I mean, we know how many 3 and 4 wide receiver sets NFL teams play, but vying for the rest of this, you have Quez Watkins, you have Jalen Reagor, you still have Greg Ward there, you have Hightower. I mean, if you want to throw some others in there. But essentially,
Pascal.
I'm sorry, Pascal. So you know who your 1-2 is. And this is where it gets really interesting beyond that. If you want to pencil in Pascal as your 3 because he's certainly a Sirianni guy, then you have Quez and Reagor and Ward and Hightower battling for what? Maybe 1 spot? Maybe 2 spots?
Yep.
That's a tight battle. And you're talking about one guy who's only in his 3rd year who was a first-round pick.
Yep.
This is where it gets really interesting.
You're right, and they usually only keep five receivers. You keep 5 receivers. You got Smith, Brown, you got Watkins
and Pascal,
yeah, and then you got to have Reagor. Reagor will be the next one, and everybody's talking about the kick returner, the kid from Utah, and I kept telling
Britton Covey.
Yeah, Covey. I keep telling people, I understand why they like him. He's explosive. He's a great returner. But you're talking about the wide receiver position. He just doesn't make sense for him. And plus, sometimes you look at the numbers they give these kids when they come in, and it kind of gives you a sense of where they are on the depth chart. They gave Britton Covey number 41. Come here, are you kidding me? You think this kid's going to be around with number 41? Give me a break, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just the numbers just aren't there. You know, they don't have just guys that just play special teams. Not anymore. Those days are almost over with. You know, there are a couple of guys that are standouts, but it used to be you could have a guy that just plays special teams.
Mm-hmm.
They can't have that now. You know, they've got to have guys who will come on and be impacts on the field. And right now, like I said, Smith, Brown, Watkins, Pascal, and Rager are 5. Who's going to be that 5th guy? You got a draft pick in Hightower. You got Greg Ward, who's been here forever. You know what I mean? You got, you know, Allen from you know, I mean, what are you going to do with him?
Devin Allen, the kid from Oregon, who's a track star but hasn't played football in a really long time.
You put him in a practice squad.
Yeah, you're going to put him in a practice squad, but that means you're going to have like 4 receivers on the practice squad. Hightower's going to be back on the practice squad. Allen's going to be on the practice squad. Covey's going to be on the practice squad. I mean, that's a lot of.
I think Pascal. I think Pascal is going to get a shot to be the number 3 guy, simply because he's Sirianni's guy. I think this is Quez Watkins' year to shine.
Yep.
You know, as he gets a year older into the professional ranks, it's do or die for Jalen Rager. I still think they're going to do everything they can to keep him on his roster because Howie has to justify, which is still a sore spot with a lot of Eagles fans, that you took him ahead of Justin Jefferson. I think Rager by default is going to make this team and be deemed this special teams demon, you know, that they need. You know, a lot of teams like to keep 6 wide receivers. The Eagles may end up keeping 6, you know, for whatever.
Who'll be the 6th guy then?
I don't know. That's a tough question.
But I mean, here's what this really comes down to, guys. Are they willing to cut Rager?
No.
I mean, are they willing to admit a mistake from a guy that they just drafted in the first round not all that long ago? That's
right. You asked that. Yep. You asked that question tongue in cheek, didn't you?
Yeah.
I was somewhat rhetorical, but I mean,
Rager's a good player.
No, Barrett, I hear you. That's the frustrating thing. If you start doing the math here, he doesn't belong.
Right.
He doesn't, but he's going to be here.
He's going to be here, and that's where we are. Do you let John Hightower go, a draft pick, who's actually drafted ahead of Quez Watkins?
Yeah,
you know. In the 5th round.
He feels like the odd man out.
Yeah. Then Greg Ward, you think they're going to keep him? I mean, sometimes you've outstayed you're not your welcome.
Yeah,
but,
I think he'll stick in the league somewhere. He'll catch on with the team. But I hear you. All right, let's jump to running back now because. Yeah, this is another position where you see, all right, Miles Sanders, it's an interesting spot here because he's got a contract situation coming up, explosive. He's a home run hitter, but he's missed a lot of time in his career. And you don't know if they're quite as committed to him as some people may think that they are. Mm-hmm. So you got Miles, you got Boston Scott, you got Kenny Gainwell at the running back spot. So I guess my question isn't necessarily who the starter is. It's Miles Sanders if he's healthy, but is he here for the long term, Miles Sanders?
I don't think so. I don't think so. If there's one thing we know about this Eagles backfield position is they have a lot of interchangeable parts. What do you mean, Barrett?
He's a 2nd rounder, man. I think it'd be hard for them to let him go, don't you think?
It depends on his health. I'll say it depends on his health.
Yeah.
He's had the health issues, and I could see them staying with Boston Scott and Kenneth Gainwell because they are much cheaper than Miles would be.
And there's D-Gun, I preface this. You're talking about in the future, not talking about necessarily this year. We know he's going to be here next year.
Right.
But are they going to give him a long-term deal? That's what he's talking about.
That's the thing. The NFL deems running backs a dime a dozen now. You have so many good running backs out there that you can pick another one out of draft next year. If you need a veteran, you can get a low-tier veteran again on the free agent market next year to come in here and do that. What kind of money is Miles and his agent talking about? Yes, you can build him as an explosive back when he hits the 2nd level and he catches the ball well. He can run away from people, make people look bad on his highlight reel, juking and jiving up and down the field. But are the Eagles willing to pay him what his agent is asking? That remains to be seen. And if not, if you can't come to a meeting of the minds, Miles goes his way, and the Eagles look to get another back in the draft next year.
I think it speaks to the position too, where they feel like they can just find somebody. I'm not telling you he's going to be Miles Sanders, but they feel like, all right, we'll figure it out and plug somebody in here. It's just part of that is just the devalue, and it's not just the Eagles. It's kind of the way the league looks at that spot now. It's just changed.
Well, a lot of teams look at it like that. I mean, look across the league, and how teams, they have a surplus of backs, and Seattle's been notorious for that for years.
Yep.
There's a lot of teams like that, across the board. Unfortunately, it affects the money making ability of running backs in the National Football League now.
Mm-hmm.
But it is what it is right now. And Miles, I think, is a very good back. We just don't get to see enough of him in terms of carries and durability because of his situation over the last couple of years.
Yeah, he's got to stay on the field. If he wants to get paid, he's going to have to stay on the field. That's for sure. And look, we've seen stints where there was ball control issues as well. Can't put it on the ground. I mean, all those kind of things. He needs to put together the best season of his career if he wants to get paid.
There's no question about it.
I can't see it, man. I can't see it, man. Right now, I can't see them sign him to a long-term deal. He's got to show something this year. And, but also, I'm looking at this. Where do you guys see Kenneth Gainwell being? How are they going to use him? And that's also going to, I think it's going to also affect the wide receiver position also. If you're thinking of him like, I think everybody is thinking of him of more so a running back / slot receiver type of player.
Yeah, no, but Barry, that's what he is. He's not a between the tackles, a bunch of carries guy. I think you have to utilize him out of the backfield. I like him a lot. It was weird. You saw him featured a decent amount early, then he kind of disappeared for a while, and then he sort of resurfaced towards the end of the season. I think there's value in Kenneth Gainwell. I do. I think he's a space guy, and he gets the ball in space, man. He makes things happen. I think it's got to be kind of Sproles-ish the way that you utilize him. And I think you're making a mistake if he's not getting some touches in games. And I know, look, it's a good problem to have. You have more weapons now on offense, but I think he still needs to get his.
Yeah, and then we got, Kennedy Brooks, the back from Oklahoma.
Right.
Talking about a big back, a guy that runs well in between the tackles. Where does he fit in with all this?
Boston Scott, man, all that dude does is make plays when you give him a chance.
But see, I think Gainwell's already leapfrogged past Boston Scott. We saw that last year.
Yeah,
they didn't even think about Boston Scott until the second half of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked because of that. But then again, when Boston got in there, like you said, Rob, all he did was make plays. And right now, I think Boston Scott is a luxury for this team. He's an insurance policy for this team. They've invested in Kenneth Gainwell and Miles Sanders for right now. And beyond this year, I don't know if Boston Scott's going to be with this team beyond this year. And the fact Barrett just talked about, I can see that kid getting a few touches here and there, maybe when needed, when somebody goes down, grooming him, them evaluating him. He could be the next guy to step. He could be the Boston Scott next year. Not as maybe as elusive or quick as a version, but he might be your Boston Scott in 2023.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. All right. Coming back, the question we will pose: would you move a Tyrese Maxey for a veteran established star? I'll let you see a quote from Brian Windhorst, which may give you a little insight to the thinking of Daryl Morey and what could be happening this offseason for the Sixers. We'll do that when we get back. And D-Gun, we know you got to take off, man. Yep. Enjoy the rest of your day, my friend.
Enjoy your
birthday sincerely.
Happy birthday, bro.
Thank you, man.
You're the
man.
man.
I'll see you tonight.
Yeah, man. All the best, Derek. Enjoy your night.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate
it. Take care. All right, Barrett and I return right after this. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Media YouTube Network.